In this video, we're going to be talking about basically ways people have gotten around uh, DMCA and other copyright protections. So the first of those is peer-to-peer networks. So peer-to-peer networks is essentially a type of connection where my personal computer and your personal computer basically talk directly to each other. There's a lot of different types of communication protocols that are like this, and they're actually really useful protocols for sharing files, in particular for sharing large files, and have a lot of legitimate uses. But the largest of these file sharing technologies is companies like Napster, which is not really around anymore, and BitTorrent. You may have heard either of these around before. Napster's maybe a little bit beyond you guys in terms of your generation, but BitTorrent is still a really popular software and protocol for downloading shared files and the like. So peer-to-peer networks are a really common way for people to try to get around DRM and other DMCA copyright protections by basically just sharing my personal copy of the file with other people directly. So we would try to avoid having this server share in the middle. We talk just directly to each other. Now, BitTorrent and other file sharing protocols such as BitTorrent that are similar are often blocked by ISPs or other firewall or network protections. A good example is that the university blocks BitTorrent type connections from being allowed on campus. And I know this because I actually use a software called ResilioSync for myself, which allows me to sync my personal files to other machines and to essentially a cloud service without having the cloud storage device. And I'm not able to use it on university grounds because of the university network blocking this type of connection. It uses a peer-to-peer protocol, and it gets blocked even though I'm using it for legal purposes because of its connection to illegal activity regarding copyright. And this isn't just like a university protocol thing. This is something that's really common across multiple companies, across multiple industries, where this type of protocol gets blocked. Uh, Again, BitTorrent type protocols have a lot of legitimate uses, but we just don't get to see them really in place because of its strong tie to legal activities. Now, the other thing that we can talk about here is cyber lockers. So cyber lockers are essentially a cloud storage for file sharing, and there is encryption involved, and there's a centralized server involved, and they can share. People can share files with each other. It's harder to track and block things such as cyber lockers than it is to track and block things such as BitTorrent. Because of the encryption and password protection that's involved in a cyber locker, and you can read more about them in your textbook. But it's just another way which people try to get around this DRM and DMCA protection protocols. The other thing we can talk about here is the Pro IP Act. So the Pro IP Act is about being able to stop these type of protocols, and in particular blocking domains that facilitate this kind of traffic. So the idea behind it is that it enables federal officers, right? So federal law enforcement from, oh, I spelled offers instead of officers. Let's fix that. So it enables federal officers to seize domain names that violate or encourage the violation of basically DRM and DMCA. So it's in particular about those that enable peer-to-peer file transfers, such as Napster. So Napster got shut down not because it helped people file share, but because it couldn't stop the illegal file sharing 100%. So people would use Napster originally when it came out to file share music files that they did not have legal ownership of, and they would share those with each other. And then they got sued by a company saying that they had to stop people from sharing in this way. They had to only enable legal sharing. And Napster was able to effectively do this up to 99%. And then they got hit with another lawsuit or another ruling that said that they had to stop at 100% or not enable file sharing at all. So Napster was not able to do this because it's really hard to stop things 100%. We know this about software. And so eventually they shut down and then reopened as primarily a music streaming service. So that happened because of DMCA and other protections, but the Pro IP Act, if it had existed at the same time, could have enabled federal law enforcement to actually seize their domain in order to stop their product from actually being able to be functional. So Pro IP is a really strong act in terms of the copyright protection and other things that it offers. There is concern over if something like this should be enabled and should be allowed, and that is a conversation you can have with this course in terms of ethics, right? You want to apply ethical theories to these things and look at it from a variety of angles to see whether or not these types of things are what we want out of our IP protection. We do want some sort of IP protection. It's important for enabling people to actually profit off of their own work, not to allow their work to get stolen. But there's also that balance. We have to look again back at the balance of what benefits society and what allows people to profit. So again, all of this comes back to the question of balance between those two things of individual rights for profit and ownership against societal rights for improvement and entertainment and other things. So in the next video, we are going to talk about how copyright can apply to software and what exactly that means for us as industry professionals.